Hello all, Ruckus here. How are you enjoying patch 1.6 so far? I am yet to play the new map Castilla, but as you can see here, I've grounded my way up to the tier 4 Matilda, and it's been a bit of a mixed bag to get here. The Mark II was okay, firepower and mobility wise, but the armor is paper thin. It's like wet cardboard. Next time you fight against one of those things, just load HE because it's pretty much guaranteed to go around for max damage. The Vickers Mark III at tier 3 I thought was atrocious. It just has no strength. The mobility is not great, firepower is terrible, and the armor also not holding up against the derp guns you start to see at tier 3 and 4. So I freed XP'd my way through that thing. And now I've got the Matilda, which whilst very, very well armored, is the slowest medium in the game for sure. It is a nightmare trying to get your way around big maps in this thing. You have to make a beeline straight for the cap and hope the action follows you pretty much. The firepower also, that little pop gun, it takes a very long time to get a kill when you're only doing 50 damage per shot. But that is not the subject of today's video. If we pan across here, you can see I have a shiny new Jagdpanzer E100. It is a monster of a machine, and that means the Jagtiger at tier 9 has finally gone. It's been 4 months and a very slow grind, but it is now out of the way. And to celebrate, I am doing a bunch of games in my last session in the Jagtiger and my very last game, so let's get into it. Here we are on Rockfield for the first of 3 games I'm going to show you today. It's myself and Doc Goody, a Korean player, I believe he is. Doc Goody in the E75, myself in the Jagtiger, rocking vents, ram and a toolbox. These 3 games were taken from 1 session. We just got into a groove and it seemed like a shame to change. I had about 30k left on the Jagdpanzer E100 grind, and we burned through that in about 20-25 games. It was a really good run. Doc Goody in the E75 pushing aggressively straight into that lower little alley there in the valley. And hold up, what is this guy doing? YOLO Comet for the win. Where's he going? Surely not going to make me chase him around. Nah, it'll be fine, leave him. Thank you, KB5. Tiger 2 spotted in the valley. E75 up high. And an M103 in the valley as well, pushing towards cap. So the enemy is spread out. Get belted there. You can see an E50 flanking to the right. He exposes himself real bad to get that shot away and takes a heap of damage. But that means my game is off to a bad start. I'm down to half my hit points already. The enemy tier 9s have the better half of the high ground, and they could capitalize here and push us off the hill if we're not careful. But the E50 has given up that strong position behind the bunker, and that means I can move up now without worried about getting flanked to the right or exposing my lower plate too much, which is the weakest part of this Jagtiger's frontal armor. Took those shots from behind that bush, wasn't spotted. The E75 is quite weak directly around the gun, assuming you're hitting it from flat. Down he goes. Doc Goody's in trouble, he's calling for help. I call and tack, and thankfully these guys with me, the E50 and the KV4, are onto the ball. Isu's got the most dangerous gun. E50 claims him. Tiger 2 bounces off my superstructure, and aha! Snapshot that E50. A miss from the Tiger 2. One into him, he won't survive my reload, so I'll look for the M103. Get stuck here. Get out of your road. Thank you. Engine fire. I checked the IS-3. He is not going to hold out there long. Ammo rack to finish off the M103. Not fantastic gun elevation, means I have to drive forward. Doc Goody with the ram. One shot into him and down he goes for 7-0. It was a good team. Not a heap of medals there, but 5.5k for myself. Close to 2 for Doc Goody. 12 from 12. It's not hard to get good figures like those in a gun with such good accuracy and penetration values. 60k credits. Match 2 is on Oasis Palms. It's another tier 9 match. Same vehicle setup, same equipment layout, and this is a big map, which makes it difficult for slower vehicles to decide where they want to be. You can see me having a bit of a crisis here. Do I stay and camp? That means I'm very dependent on what the enemy does. I can't go north now, I see. There's only one VK heading that way. So it makes sense to head with the bulk of the team's strength. Doc Goody is starting to have connection issues at this point. He's going to pause right there. You can see he's holed up. His ping is dropping out on him. It's getting later in the night at this stage, and it's only going to get worse from here. Enemies heavies are making a push on that high ground on the opposite side of the map. IS-3 needs to get up there if he's going to go, because that's a terrible spot to stay. If he's got spotted there, you are very exposed to fire from the opposite side. I am safely into the cover. We've got targets on the hill. Tier 8 VK 4502A and T54. There's another one of those clipping shots that doesn't connect when it should have. 2 shots rain in behind me. Coming from the opposite side of the map. Is this going to stick out again? Surely it wouldn't be that dumb. Maybe he is. Bounce a shot from the T54. Look at the reload on the Jagtiger.
Enemy vehicle destroyed.
It's very difficult to get a medium tank out of that position if they decide to stay up there, especially with fire support from the opposite side of the map. Try and climb the hill to get them, and you take a lot of damage, but the T-54 there bugs out and he is copping a hiding. Enemy's pushing our spawn. Oh, he's come back. Taking fire from the far hill. Everyone's milling about trying to get shots away. Fantastic accuracy of the Jagtiger's gun there. Claims that T-54. Doc Goody struggling to control his vehicle in the center there. With that frantic rush from the T-54s dealt with, we can now dig in, stop taking fire from that far hill, and regroup. Poke my head out. There's a tiger to my right, spotted. Take more fire from the far hill. That guy just sitting there on the very crest of that ridge. That is a terrible position to stay, and he loses half his health for that. Crest just enough to poke the gun out, hide the lower plate, because the Tiger can definitely get through my lower plate. But he bounces the upper section of the superstructure, and he's gone. pausing here. I want the camo to reset. You know those guys are still going to be aiming at me. Yep. Shot plows into the ridge. I move to this next position, which gives me excellent fire position on that high ground. We get an IS-3 in the cap, which is the right thing to do. That'll force them to come down. But you can see that IS-3 there, he is perched up on the ridge. If they can reset the cap from there, they'll have no reason to come down, so he needs to stay down. Luckily he gets the message. And here they come, responding to the cap. Why is this guy looking the wrong way? Well played to that team, and to Massa there in his IS-3. Bunch of medals for that round. 4 for myself, 3.3 for Goldville, 12 from 13. Crucial, Radley's, Top Gun. It's a decent game. The final game for this video, and the final game I ever played in the Jagtiger, is here on Black Goldville, another tier 9 match, and Goldville's internet connection is about to give up the ghost. I didn't realise at the time, but he is struggling with high ping here, and that's almost going to cost us. Push the hill. I don't intend to go all the way to the top of the hill. Jagtiger's too slow to get there before anything faster on the opposition side. So there is a position here with this ridge in front of me, allows you to get hull down as long as you're careful about what's down near the refinery shooting up at you. You can guard that top pass where this Centurion is. I line up a shot, and it looks like that went between the hull and the turret somehow. We've got plenty of team members in the refinery. Looks like they've got 3 or 4 up here on the ridge, 4 with the STI. And land one into his side. 5 up here with the E75 up the back there. Another one into the STI as he rushes our T32 and SU-152. Centurion landing a shot. I missed one against the Tiger and was over angled, which means I land one from the Tiger as well. He pokes out again. I bounce. Centurion gets away. KB3 should not be there. And that T32 is not going to last much longer, so calling for help. The last thing I want to be doing is sitting by myself on the opposite side of the map to everyone else, surrounded by enemies. Back it up. Back it up. Going for help again. We've got someone in the cap circle, which is a forlorn hope. He's moved out. And I'm being rushed here. Centurion 7-1. Take one to the side. And he zigs when he should have zags, luckily. Which means I can bring the gun to bear. STI poking over the top. We're going to swap positions here. KB3 wants Doc Goody's E75. He can't back up that ridge, so he commits. And down he goes. Doherty looks like he can handle that STI, so I thought at the time. Which means I can focus on these two coming in. One more into the E75. He's looking at me. I've got to stay behind the wreck of this Centurion. Clutch shot the Tiger 2, but behind me, Doc Goody has gone down to the STI. I'd be in trouble here, except that T54. He rushes the E75, which means I can turn around to the STI. Clutch shot into the side. I swap to APCR. I want to make sure this shot counts. I only get one chance. Phew. Thank you, T54, for the distraction. And with them focused on him, I can now pick apart the last of the enemy team. T54 gets the final kill, and that was an intense moment. .8k damage for myself, but none for Doc Goody, unfortunately. Often in a platoon match, the only way you get a game like that is for something to go wrong with your platoon mate. So bad luck to him, but that was not subjective to the way he played that night. We had a really good run of games. And so concludes another episode, guys. I thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for the next one. Peace.